And now we're going to look at how the light travels through the eye. Okay, so forgive this drawing. I know it's a very lopsided circle, but no one can ever draw a perfect circle. If you found somebody, please let me know, because that's not possible. All right, so drawing this is showing you basically the general idea of the eye. So we said before that what was the function of the eye? So we said the function of the eye was to process light, right? So in order to give us vision. Okay, so here when we look at this, when we begin here, right, so this is from the anterior to the posterior region, right? You have this structure on the outside in blue. This is referred to as the cornea. So cornea is the first site of light refraction, right? Patients with certain kinds of pathological conditions, like astigmatism. Do you have astigmatism? If you do, it's probably because you have a defect in the cornea, right? So the actual anatomical structure of the cornea is off. And so most patients that have astigmatism, the way to treat these patients is through corrective glasses, right? And so light comes in, it bends, right? And then it enters this opening here. This is called the pupil, right? So this opening here, that's called the pupil. So pupil is the open cavity here. And then you have this pink, right? So eye color is not really in pink. This pink is referred to as the iris. So the iris here is where your eye color is. And that is what controls light entering the pupil. So this is called the iris. The iris is part of what layer? Do you remember? So the iris is part of the vascular tunic. Okay. And when the light, after it bends, refracts from the cornea and enters the pupil, you have this next structure in white. This is referred to as the lens. The lens's main function is to further refract light in order to create a focal point at the end of the eye, which is referred to as the retina. All right. So lens here comes in, bends light. You have this region here in blue. This is called the ciliary body or the ciliary muscle. This contracts and relaxes the lens in order to focus everything accordingly. So that focusing procedure is called accommodation. So accommodation is a procedure where, for example, when you want to look at light, you want to have this sort of adjustment. This process is called accommodation, right? So I'll make a little square around it. And so when the light comes in here, it refracts again, and eventually it binds to this final region here at the end. This is called the retina. So you have the retina. This is part of what region? This is called the neural tunic, right? So this is the retina at the end. Okay, so the innermost layer of the eye. And this is where you have majority of your neural impulses that are being generated. Information is being processed at the retina, and the retina takes all this information into the optic nerve. Right? So what is the optic nerve? Optic nerve is cranial nerve what? Do you remember? So cranial nerve number 2. So this is called the optic nerve. And all of this information now goes to bypass, enters the central nervous system, and it goes to what region of the body? Goes to the brain, and the brain, what region of the brain is responsible for vision, if you all remember? So that is the occipital region of the brain. All right, and this is just a very simplified version of how light transfers, right? So you have the cornea, goes through the pupil, lens, goes through the retina, binds, create this action potential, this impulse, carries it through the optic nerve, which is the cranial nerve number 2, and then it's being processed by the occipital region of the brain.